From the Frontier Wrestling Alliance headquarters in London, this is FWA Radio with Dave Bradshaw.
We are barely 2 weeks away from New Frontiers, and it's time for another episode of FWA Radio. Dave Bradshaw here again, and I'm ready to bring you the second half of my interview with the show stealer, Alex Shane. Now today, Alex is going to be talking about some of the more hotly debated elements of the new FWA project, including jobsinwrestling.com, the Grapple Group, and a new syllabus for wrestling trainees, which he hopes will be rolled out across the country in the months and years to come. He's also going to be giving us his views on New Frontiers and the new FWA roster, and much more besides, so it's well worth a listen. Now, the first half of that interview, as expected, provoked plenty of strong opinions online, so keep them coming. The email address, radio@fwauk.com. That's radio@fwauk.com. Indeed, if you have views on anything that's going on in the wrestling world, that's the same email address, radio@fwauk.com. We will read through as many of your views as we possibly can. Before we listen to that interview with Alex, let's find out what is going on in the world of wrestling. The lovely Jane is here with this week's news.
The clock continues to count down to Sunday the 2nd of August in Broxbourne, with 2 more matches announced this week for the FWA Unsigned show on the afternoon of New Frontiers. Former RQW Cruiserweight champion, the British Eagle, goes against her fellow high flyer Dan Head, and Slam Academy champion Caleb the Samurai Hughes tests his skills against up-and-coming technical wizard, textbook Dave Frazier. Meanwhile, the panellists for the Fan Slam Q&A session have also been made public. Martin Stone and Rockstar Spud will be answering fans' questions alongside FWA legends Doug Williams and Phil Flash Barker. Tickets for the Fan Slam, which starts at 2 p.m. and includes the FWA Unsigned show, will be available for £4 on the door. Another legend who will be in attendance at New Frontiers is Wayne Bridges. The former World Heavyweight Champion is one of the main figures involved in the British Wrestlers Reunion, an organisation that keeps UK wrestlers in contact with each other and offers them support in retirement. The new FWA is promising to donate a percentage of all ticket sales to the cause through a new charitable fund, and Bridges will be in Broxbourne Civic Hall to mark the start of this worthwhile new initiative. Martin Stone kept on track in preparations for his main event showdown with Doug Williams at New Frontiers by picking up a big win this weekend in Sheffield. The Governor successfully defended his 1PW heavyweight title against the Monster Abyss via disqualification in the main event of the company's Steel City Ice Rage show. Former WWE champion Bret the Hitman Hart was the guest of honour and made a heartfelt speech to the fans thanking them for their continued support. Another former champion, Brock Lesnar, was in the main event of UFC's landmark 100th show on Saturday night in Las Vegas. The 300-pounder from Minnesota defeated top challenger Frank Mir by a stoppage in the second round to confirm his status as the company's undisputed heavyweight champion. It is believed that the show was one of the most successful broadcasts in pay-per-view history, drawing around 1.5 million buys. The independent wrestling scene won't be seeing much more of Eugene in the near future. The former WWE Tag Team Champion, whose real name is Nick Dinsmore, has been rehired by the company to help nurture new talent. Dinsmore was released by WWE in September 2007 and subsequently made a number of appearances for UK promotions. According to reports in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Lucha Libre star Vampiro broke his back this past week in an incident that was not related to wrestling. Further details about the nature and severity of the injury are not yet known. Vampiro made his name in the Lucha Libre arenas of AAA and CMLL, but is best known by British fans for his stint in WCW at the start of this decade. American comedian Seth Green was the guest general manager of WWE Raw on Monday night. Green, who is best known for his roles in Family Guy and Austin Powers, finished the night competing in a 6-man tag match alongside Triple H and John Cena. Next week, things will get even more bizarre as music legends ZZ Top take their turn to run the show. Meanwhile, on SmackDown, Rey Mysterio defeated Chris Jericho in another superb Intercontinental title match between the two. Finally, congratulations to John Cena. The 5-time world champion was married this past weekend in Massachusetts. Cena's father conducted the ceremony.
All right, thank you, Jane. Now, in a moment, we'll take you to part 2 of that interview with Alex Shane, as promised. But before that, I want to remind you of a couple of things I told you about last week. First of all, we're after fans who have something to get off their chest. So if you're the type of person who likes a good old rant, we're prepared to give you 2 minutes of our show to spout off and tell us anything you want to tell us about your views on the wrestling industry. It's for a new feature we're calling The Shooting Gallery, and the email address, as ever, radio@fwauk.com. Secondly, as I said last week, in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be speaking to the new boss of FWA, Managing Director Tony Simpson will be here. We want your questions for him as well. If you've got anything you want to ask the boss, I should say, the email address, radio@fwauk.com. Now, without further ado, let's go back to that interview with Alex Shane. We ended last week with Alex responding to some of his critics. As we rejoin, I presented Alex with a quote, a direct quote, from one of the internet forums. It says this: "You aren't supporting anyone if you aren't finding them paid work. You're merely exploiting them." End quote. Now, I started by asking Alex if he disputes that claim.
Yeah, I do dispute that, because it's not my job to find somebody paid work. It's in my job through jobs in fact, first of all, it's not my job full stop. It's Jobs in Wrestling's job, okay? But the relationship we have is Richard Dunn interviews the people, talks to them, and then I'll go and find them work, right? But the work is, for somebody to pay £25 to join a site, like we say on the website, we're not doing anything that you can't do yourself. We're just saving you a lot of time and aggravation, right? But no one's going to pay £25 and expect to get a full-time job out of that. That's retarded. You want to be in wrestling, you're going to need experience in wrestling. We can help give you that experience. But again, like, if it was that simple, everybody would go to any recruitment agency. Even someone that goes to a recruitment agency is not guaranteed a job. You know, it's all about what they individually bring to that firm or that company. And actually, some of the very people who have been saying this from other companies use people for free on their shows, and there's no problem with that. It's, you know, I think it's all about what you're. The thing is, it's not about what they're doing for free, and I keep doing inverted commas, but you can't hear it. But it's not what you're doing for free, because I don't think it is free. I think in FWA, you know, we offer a trade of services. If you want to advance your career, there's people. Phil Austin's a perfect example. We're going to have some testimonials on the Jobs and Wrestling site of people that I've helped go on to, other things or whatever. But it's all about where you plan to go at the end of that. If there's an opportunity for you to go on to bigger things and better things, and there is. There's people who have contacted me at shows and said, I'd like to get into wrestling, and end up working for TNA and stuff, So I think, I just think it's all about the individual person. All we're doing is offering them a door. There's no exploitation.
I mean, people will say with this analogy with the TV industry that the difference is the TV industry is much bigger now, isn't it? Yeah. The case that with British wrestling now, and certainly for the foreseeable future, the brutal reality is that there's just, in the majority of the off-air roles, certainly, there's just not enough money in the industry to support that.
Well, I think I just answered that question, but I'll reiterate. I think, first of all, you just got to read a newspaper to know how many jobs in television are being cut right now. So even in the television industry, there's no guarantee. We are in a recession. But let's play devil's advocate, okay? Just because there's a bigger industry in television doesn't mean you're going to get a better position, because there's more people trying to get into that industry. Wrestling is an industry that hasn't bear fruit properly yet, and for it to bear fruit for people, they have to show initiative. So actually, for certain people, for somebody like Tony, who's got a background in banking and property, I mean, he's not left that job yet. It's a really well paid position he's got, but now he's going. I've actually said to him, don't leave that position until this is, but he's ready to, because he's somebody with an intelligent business brain that can see there's a serious amount of money to be made in this country from British wrestling if it's done properly. There's money to be made in anything if it's done properly, and whatever someone's motivation is, like back to the whole thing with money, who is anybody to judge someone's motivation on something? Whether your motivation is to get a good looking girl, live in a big house, drive a flash car, have everybody tell you you're the man, rewrite the Bible, whatever you want to do, whatever your motivation's your motivation. Nobody has got any right to tell you your motivation's wrong, because that's how racism, xenophobia, all that kind of stuff starts. Well, so I think what somebody's aim is to get from it is totally irrelevant. I think what is relevant is anyone can make money doing anything, and there's just as much chance of somebody becoming a millionaire in wrestling than there is television. Anybody that disagrees, just go and have an argument with Vince McMahon over it,